Who's missing?
Sylvia Ottoson.
I'm Sylvia Ottoson.
No, they're not here. They weren't
Where were
there.
they? No, they're not at the house.
No, they're not there.
Wait, I checked the entire house. They're not here.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. I'm your host, Che Dorena. Here we are again counting down a list of missing people who were mysteriously found alive. If you didn't know, you can just dip out of existence whenever you want and never come back. If you just move to another state or country and then don't use your real name, it's really hard for people to find you. We've already covered a bunch of these in our part 1 list, and if you haven't watched it, you should go check it out right now. I thought most of the list would have been kidnappings, but a lot of it was just people who yeeted themselves out of their old lives and then right up into a new life, beginning everything fresh. And there are so many of these kinds of people that we made today's list of top 10 missing people who were mysteriously found alive part 2. As always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Also, make sure you follow Most Amazing Top 10 on Instagram and Facebook. It's a great way to get to know myself and the other hosts a little bit better. Also, make sure you stick around for the whole video because I want you guys to hit up the comments and let me know which people you would have put on this list or which people you want to see in part 3. And if you haven't watch part 1, go check that out right now. Who starts at the sequel? And without taking any longer, let's get into this list. At number 10, we have Carlos Sanchez Ortiz de Salazar. Latino people always have the best names. This guy sounds like he should be on the cover of some romantic novel with long flowing hair and a chest you can raise a family on. Well, our possible heartthrob Carlos went missing back in 1995. A terrible time to get lost from society. The 90s were just taking off. His family sent out a huge search party for him and they could never find him. It took them a long time before they gave up, but eventually they had to call it quits, and in 2010 he was officially presumed dead. I guess you're only alive legally if people still have hope that you're out there. But in 2015 some mushroom pickers were doing the dirty work of, well, picking mushrooms near the coast of Tuscany, and they came across a forest man. This dude told the mushroom pickers that he had been in the forest for 20 years and that his name was Carlos and he was from Spain. Perfect match. His family came to come get him, but before they arrived, he hid in the forest again. I guess you can say this guy was kinda half found. At number 9, we have Edgar Tula. This is basically the story of the longest vacation ever. Edgar Tula went down to the Niagara Falls when he was just 21. Edgar had struggled with mental health his whole life. His brain processed information very slowly and he had the mental capacity of a 12-year-old. Somewhere along the trip he bumped his head and got amnesia. It wasn't until he was in his early 50s that he remembered who he was, jumped on a bus and went back to his family. That is crazy. I thought amnesia was just something in cartoons. I thought it was a plot device to make sure that soap operas never got off the air. I mean, you could actually get hit in the head and forget everything? Like, who am I? Who are my friends? What are those plans I made that I wanted to flake on? I'm gonna remember that the next time I want to break up with someone. Like, I want to love you, I just can't remember how. At number 8, we have Gabriel Nakki. Now this is a story about how my life got turned upside down. That's pretty much what happened to Australia's Gabriel Nakki. He was living a normal life until a couple guys were up to no good started making trouble in his neighborhood. Well, actually he got into a car crash. Remember, road safety is very important. Well, Gabe got into the crash in 1987 and he was just gone after that. Police found his burned up car, but Gabe was nowhere to be found. His family went looking for him, but he never popped up. It was 20 years later that they were just about to give up hope when a dental record check confirmed he was still alive. The family sent an investigator to go find him, and sure enough, Gabe was still kicking around. What happened was that the car crash that Gabe was in was so traumatizing that he went into a fugue state, forgetting who he was. He lived around places, working odd jobs until the private investigator came to come find him, showed him some pictures which jogged his memory, and then he went home to his family. At number 7, we have Judith Bellows. We're gonna move over from a dude who became a forest person to an abandoned car that turned into a murder investigation. Judith Bellows was married and a mom of 2 kids. She seemed to have a life that was all put together, until one day in 1993 when she went missing. Her car was left behind and the police immediately thought that she had been murdered. They launched an investigation, but they couldn't find anything, so it was a cold case file. I love that show. It wasn't until 18 years later when she popped up. She wasn't very far either. She was just 2 states over from where she went missing in Washington. And get this, she had a whole new family, new kids, new husband. She just hit refresh on her whole life. Control-Alt-Delete. The reason she took off and left her old family behind is because she was trying to escape her abusive husband. Judith though, you gotta take the kids with you, baby. At number 6, we have Hirono Otoh. So here's a huge one. This guy was fighting a war for over 30 years. Hirono Otoh was a Japanese soldier fighting during World War II. He was dropped into the Philippine jungles right before the war was over. So this guy was in the dense jungle while everyone was celebrating the end of the world's largest war. So he didn't get the memo that it was time to take a break, and he started his own guerrilla war in the Filipino jungles. The Japanese army even dropped flyers saying the war was over all over the jungle to tell him that he should leave, but he thought it was a trap. This guy was very high strung. It wasn't until 30 years later when an explorer by the name of Niro Suzuki went into the forest to find him. Niro was successful in finding him, but Hiro still didn't want to leave. So Niro notified the army, they sent in troops to go find him, and then finally relieved him. At number 5 we have Bowe Bergdahl. Remind me to never sign up for the army. It's hard, people are super mean, and everything over there is scary. I'm gonna stay living in my air-conditioned apartment and order Uber Eats on my phone. Well, Bowe Bergdahl was much more of a man's man than me. He was serving in Afghanistan in 2009 when he just went missing out of nowhere. Everyone thought he was dead, but it turns out he was kidnapped by the Taliban. He was discovered in 2014, and Obama did some presidential stuff and arranged for his release. Bowe was a prisoner of war for 5 years, not the ideal living situation. After he was rescued, it was discovered that the reason he was captured was because he tried to sneak over to another base and tell the sergeant over there how bad he was running his base. A classic case of mind your own goddamn business. At number 4 we have Lula Hood. You know, I respect a lot of the people on this list. A lot of them just said, hey, I don't want to give up, or I don't want to live here anymore, and they just stuck to their word. With Lula, she had an argument with her husband and then dipped. She left in the 1970s and she was gone like a ghost, never seen again. It wasn't until 1996 when police contacted her family to tell them that they found Lula's body dead. Or was she dead? 14 years after that, in 2010, Lula popped up. She was living in Florida and she was now 80. On top of that, she was doing great. Apparently the argument was so bad with her husband that her husband told her to leave and never come back, and she was like, deal. I bet this argument was over one of those 14-hour games of Monopoly when you've been playing non-stop and then you find out someone was cheating. At number 3 we have Bakadendi Kakamov. I hope you guys heard me say that name the first time because I'm only reading that one out once. This dude was fighting in the Russian-Afghan war back in the 80s. While he was fighting, he took a bullet and some shrapnel and was in pretty rough shape. So the locals found him and then locked him in a dungeon waiting for him to die. No, I'm just kidding. They took care of him until he was healthy enough to leave. But the locals were so nice to him that he was like, I don't want to leave. You guys are dope. And he just stayed. He met a nice lady, he got married, he even started a family. And then he changed his name to Sheik Abdullah. He must have been so nice finding love, making friends in the midst of war, and getting a name that people can actually pronounce. Later, a veterans organization came looking for him, but he was an old dude and they just left him to chill, like he had moved on. At number 2 we have Nguyen Thi Phan. Holy, this is a dark story. Nguyen Thi Phan was a student, and after school she went out to hang out with some of her friends. She was only 16, so this is pretty standard teenage behavior. But her mother didn't like her coming home late, so this time she wanted to teach her a lesson. Her mom did this by locking her out of the house. So instead of waiting for her mom to open the door, Nguyen went to a karaoke bar with her friend. While they were there, they met this nice lady who sold them into sex trafficking, and then both girls were married off to old men. Nguyen was a prisoner for 21 years before she was able to escape and make her way back to Vietnam. I don't even know what to say to this. Like, be a better mom, don't trust overly nice people, don't go to karaoke? At number 1 on the list we have Jenna Mathews. For the number 1 spot on this list we have what must be the worst parenting of all time. Jenna Mathews' mother hid her daughter away in the house of her boyfriend's uncle because she wanted to cash in on the publicity she would get from her daughter going missing. She hid her daughter for a year, feeding her sleeping pills so she would be too drowsy to escape and tell everyone that she was missing. Eventually, the poor girl escaped, the mother was arrested, and the daughter was set up with a new, much kinder family and given a new name. It's crazy how far people will go just to be famous. Well everyone, that is our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Also, go into the comments, let us know if you want a part 3 of this video. Part 1 was so good and now we have part 2. I'm sure we can get a part 3 for you as well. Also, follow Most Amazing Top 10 on Instagram and Facebook. It's a great way to get to know myself and the other hosts a little bit better. Until next time, I've been Sheik Abdullah, and if I ever go missing, just build a giant statue of me, and then I want everyone to pray to the statue like it's like some sort of god or something. That's all I ask for. you.